Okay, so welcome to the Cohort 3 and 4 virtual coaching session. This is for our district and charter MTSS coordinators. And the purpose of this meeting is to help you to prepare to facilitate your upcoming MTSS team meeting. Typically, these are provided the Friday before your MTSS team will be meeting. Because of the Thanksgiving holiday, we are actually doing this session 2 Fridays before your meeting. So we'll be talking about some content today that you have not gotten yet to in Moodle, and that's fine. This is just really to help you to start really thinking about what this facilitation is going to look like. So one of the things that we've found that is helpful is to kind of, in preparing for a meeting, to kind of think about it in 3 different sections. So what is it I'm doing before the meeting? What is it that I'm being intentional about during the meeting? And then what is it that I'm doing after the meeting? So again, in terms of your meeting window, it is November the 28th through December the 4th. Sorry, I'm still getting tickled at myself for my mistake. Okay. So in terms of preparing for before the meeting, so these are things that some of which you've probably already done, but just a couple of things that you can say, yes, I did this. And so one of those things would certainly be like the logistics. So thinking about where we're meeting. A big thing about the location is make sure that you've got internet access. Especially if you're planning on using any of the video content or any of the resources from Moodle that you would want to actually pull up during the course. So that's going to be something important about the location. Also, you've communicated the time that folks are meeting. We haven't said like it's going to take you this long to get through the content. And we've seen people really do a variety in terms of some people have actually have been going through the Moodle course like with their team. And so certainly that takes more time. And then as they're going through, they're debriefing, and then that's all going into the team meeting. What we see more commonly is that people are independently completing the course, and then when they're coming together, they're really going through and walking and talking through like what their shifts in thinking were and different reflections that they jotted down in their journal as they went. So another piece with that in terms of the logistics is making sure that like you have the equipment that you need. So we definitely would recommend that you're projecting like the Moodle course. You may want to toggle between the Moodle course and the agenda, which you have a sample, and we're going to look at that in just a moment. Also, you want to make sure that you've communicated, so typically an email to your team members ahead of time, letting them know what it is that they need to bring. And then also, we would recommend that you're going ahead and emailing the agenda. Something that we would really want people to have with them would be that reflection journal. So this is their notes, or maybe if they're doing like an online journal, or it could be like they're actually handwriting different notes. They could also even bring like the learning checklist, which is something that folks are downloading at the beginning of the section. So you've got this for module 1.1. And then in terms of like the materials that team members may be using during the time, so these may be things that you want to print off ahead of time and then pass them out when you're with your team. So, and I'm going to show you, they're all linked here in the notes that we're looking at right now, but they're also linked online. So I'm going to actually show you where those things are. So, and just really quick, I'm going to start back here at the home page. And then where we're scrolling to is all the way, and I apologize if this hurts your eyes. So here's the module 1.1 learning checklist. So this may be something that you want to have people bring with them. And that's just helping us to stay on track and make sure that I've completed the different parts and pieces, because we've got a number of parts and pieces to get completed. And then I'm scrolling. Okay, so we're here, November the 28th through December the 4th, and it's the district MTSS meeting. So the first link here is actually going to connect you to a couple of resources. So if you click on that, it's going to connect you to the agenda, and then what we talk about in terms of like our map for implementation is something called implementation milestones. So this is what you saw, most likely you saw it whenever we did the Module 1 preview, that time that folks were together face-to-face, you and your teams. And that's really taken, okay, so this is something that we need to do, and then here are the different steps to getting that completed. So you've got that for both the school level lens and then also the district level lens. And when we think about charter schools, so there may be parts that still apply there in terms of the charter school, especially when you start thinking about across different buildings and across different grade spans in terms of installation. So I am going to go ahead and try to click on this recommended agenda. And I think what you'll see is this is almost the exact same thing that you walked through in your coordinator meeting this month. And the only difference is in your coordinator meeting, we had looked at an adapted version, and we had added shares and curiosities to it. And then you were thinking about what are things that maybe you would be willing to share with other coordinators about each of those different agenda items. And then also what are things that you were curious about in terms of each of those agenda items. So what we're going to do after we get through this portion of the before part in terms of materials is we're actually going to just kind of hit some high points with this. And we're going to look at it through thinking about what is it that we're talking about this in terms of this particular agenda item. Why are we talking about that? And then like how do I have this conversation? What resources have we already provided to help with the conversation? So that's the first thing that you would want to either email to your people ahead of time and or have a paper copy for them. So the next thing I'm going to click on here is the school implementation milestones. And so what we call this is like our map. We got a lot of questions with the first two cohorts. So like, do you have a map? There's so much work to do. Like we need a map in terms of what are our next steps. So this helps us really to think about, well, what is the thing that we're trying to do? And then what are the little steps along the way to getting that done? So here's one example of your map in terms of the school level. And then we're going to kind of zoom out a little bit and look at the district level milestones. And again, this is support for you to help you with facilitating the conversation. One thing also to highlight about these milestone documents is you'll notice that they have blue links here. And these blue links they're hyperlinked for you. And so it will actually connect you with content to help you to do that different step. All right. I'm seeing like lots of nods. I'm feeling much better now about. All right. Okay. So you know where that you're going to in Moodle. And the other thing is that when you're in the course, you may actually, and you're doing the different parts and pieces, you may want to go ahead and have this pulled up in the background. So I'm going to shrink this down for just 1 second. So those are the materials. And then the other thing I did highlight was that learning checklist. We've just found that it's helpful for people to have, to have a common visual thing that they're looking at. So we definitely recommend like projecting. You may want to start off and have your agenda projected and then do kind of like I'm doing right now, and I'm toggling back and forth between the agenda and the actual online course. What you're going to find is if we're and certainly people could have their laptops pulled up and be looking at the course, but it seems to just kind of help people to stay more focused if we're all kind of looking at something similar in terms of the agenda. And then maybe other things that you want to think about is, are there some common roles that we need? Like maybe we need somebody that would take notes for us. One thing that I know our team tends to find a lot is we'll be talking about something and we didn't necessarily take notes about what it was that we were talking about. And then we come to the point later and it's like, well, what did we say we were going to do about that? So I do think probably with each of your agenda items, it would be a good practice before you move to the next agenda item to take a moment and pause and summarize what it was that we said that we were going to do. And if you don't get down all the details in terms of the conversations, I think that is fine. But definitely it's a good idea to have somebody that's helping to take notes for you. And you may not want that to be you, because you probably are going to be moving the conversation and watching kind of how people are responding to what you're saying. If you're feeling like maybe you need to do both, then certainly you can try it. It can just be a challenge. So that's probably one thing to think about. Sometimes people, put time limits beside the different agenda items. It's something that you can certainly think about. I think what you want to be kind of intentional about around that is you don't want to stifle the conversation. So while we're going to need to know kind of what our next steps are, we do want to make sure that we're spending enough time to where you're getting a feel that folks are on the same page that are on your team. Because remember, the team that you're meeting with, like, this is the heart for implementation, and you're really what's driving the work forward. So we need to make sure that people are not just learning at a surface level, but that they're actually like really understanding it, that we're starting to get some of that depth. So I am, since we just talked about that and I didn't add that, is maybe to think about roles. So like maybe a note taker, facilitator, which I would think we were probably thinking that would be you as the coordinator. But certainly if there's somebody else that you're wanting to either co-facilitate with or even get into that role, we would support you in that. Okay, so our work with 1.1 is really all around readiness. And we talked when we brought folks together with the Module 1 preview, but that this is the step that is the most critical, and it's also the most overlooked. And a lot of times people want to hurry and just run through it. And then what happens is in the next parts, in terms of installation and implementation, we start realizing we just barely hit the surface with some of this readiness work. So we do recommend that you take your time with this work and that you really focus more on, like we'll talk about the communication loops and feedback pieces. So we really want to make sure that people are not just nodding and saying okay, but that they're really starting to have some deeper conversations. And how that you'll know that is that you're listening to what people are saying. So you're being intentional about that feedback. So I think the team meeting is a great time for you to be practicing some of those skills. So when we think about this work with established readiness, it's kind of broken up in kind of 4 big buckets. So one of those pieces is common language. So we know we got to get folks on the same page about what is MTSS. We're making that shift from at-risk students and like a referral process to total school improvement. And this is about all kids, and even our high students that aren't growing, they're a part of this conversation. All students, all student subgroups. Also, an important part of that readiness work is the teaming structures. So most likely you've got teams in place right now, but you probably have some that the work they're doing is not necessarily in alignment. So what we'll start thinking about is how might we shift some of the existing teams. Maybe some of the work we need to do where you'll go next with 1.2 is really getting into your data evaluation system. Maybe part of the problem is the data that we're using. And how do we get that data into a format that's really meaningful for people, and it allows them to really do some true problem solving. We're going to walk through the school selection. So this is something we realized with our first 2 cohorts that maybe we weren't explicit enough about. So you're going to come into contact with information that it's not what you're currently doing. And so it may mean that we need to have some other conversations with people before we actually move forward with implementation. So there will be some work and some changes that we're going to be putting into place. And so while all of our schools may be getting some of the messages about like what is MTSS and when might we be really getting into this work, you're going to have some schools that are going to get more training, more coaching, more targeted communication around what their next steps are. And we really support that you start that work with those that are the most ready. Now, I do want to also share, when you think about that, so a lot of times we're talking about from a district perspective, but I want to also zoom in. If I'm at a charter school, what I may be thinking about is what are some of those grade levels that are the most ready. And then as we think about expanding, we want to make sure, let's say I start with kindergarten and third grade, that my next year in terms of expansion, I'm making sure that those kids that were in kindergarten and third grade that next year are a part of it. So maybe year 2, I'm going into K1 and 3, 4. So we want to make sure that we actually are doing this work around school selection. And in the online course, you've got actually step-by-step questions and kind of things that you're thinking about in terms of that school selection work. And then the other piece is, we know that the core beliefs is really, really important. And a lot of times we try to get people to make some changes, and we do it maybe more at like a training or behavioral kind of skill level and start doing this better. But what happens is folks never made the shift with their beliefs. So like you have a tool, the belief survey, to help you to really look at first what your MTSS team, where they are in their beliefs. And so one of the recommendations that we have on the agenda is that actually during this meeting, you're talking about what the results of your team belief survey results were. I know at our coordinator meeting in the Southwest, we had a question about the turnaround time in terms of, after we've done that, how quickly can we get the results? And so we have 2 people on your state MTSS team that do the research and evaluation work, and it's Amy Miller and Susan Laney. And they have said it takes about 24 hours to get those results back. So if that's something that you're wanting your folks to do, in Moodle, it tells you the directions in terms of the link that you're going to click on and share, and then also who to email. It's either Amy or Susan to get your feedback results. So that may be an agenda item that you want to do. Let me also just share just really quick with that a piece about the beliefs survey. Is a lot of times we go and do things with people and we haven't done it ourselves. So we really talk about, like with the belief survey, that is one of the tools we'll be using to look at implementation of MTSS. And we really want you to start that work with your team before you start getting that work into your schools, because we want you to have that experience and know like what that was like. It does not take long to complete. I'd say like 10, 12 minutes. And then the purpose of that really is going to provide, it's going to help you and your MTSS team to provide further training and coaching. Okay, so that's like really all this readiness stuff. I mean, I don't know if you feel it, but when those different things, those 4 buckets I just walked through, that's a lot of work. So how are we going to start breaking that up? And probably what's going to happen when you pull your folks together for the team meeting, everybody is not going to have done, like they're going to have a lot of gaps with their learning checklist. So one of the things that we shared, it was at the coordinator meeting, and then it's also linked here in the document that we're looking at right now, which is a couple of highlights or things that you may want to really zoom into in Moodle. So you can certainly click on this link, but this could help you with just kind of hitting a couple of high points that you want to make sure and be really intentional about with your MTSS team. So this is a resource that can help you with figuring out like the what during the meeting, which is really all around our readiness for MTSS. So in this section, one of the things you have in your Moodle course is you have the common language video, which is Amy Jablonski talking about what is MTSS. It's a 20-minute overview video. So that could be something that you use. And then a third resource that you could use is when we talk about communicating, and we've got the video link to Simon Sinek, and it's the golden circle, and it's all around like how that we communicate, and we really want to start with the why in our communication. So a lot of this work really is, communication is huge. I say it's the hardest part of the work. But that video could be another example. Now, just know if you do the common language video, that's going to take you about 20 minutes. And then if you do the Simon Sinek video, that's going to take you about 17, 18 minutes. And that's just in watching. So what it could be is you may want to pull out a couple of things that you want to make sure that folks have done before they come to the meeting, because you're going to talk about it in the meeting. So two different ways you could have done that. And again, that's going to go back to this before and communicating with your team members about what it is they need to do to prepare for the meeting. So this part here. Okay, so then kind of the other way, or the next step, we talk a lot about the compelling why. So this is like the emotionally charged reason that we're engaging in this work of MTSS. And maybe you remember whenever we had folks together for the Module 1 preview, you actually already did this. We looked at the MTSS vision statement, and you did an activity called the 5 whys, where you started going deeper and deeper about why is this important. And so what I actually did is I went into those notes and I copied the directions for that activity. It could be because this particular part is actually going to flow into a team meeting activity, because you're going to do before your team leaves, you're going to take a picture, and then you're also going to record your team's compelling why. So I know one great idea I heard is we could actually go back and look at, well, what did we say was our compelling why when we were together at the training this past fall, and then maybe what we do, and that could be a activity you want people to bring with them, or just bring their notes from the preview. Or you could spend, I would think maybe this would take about 10 minutes to do that vision statement again, and to facilitate that why activity. So if you decide to do that, you can click here on this link, the 5 whys activity, and it's going to take you to like what that activity is, why that we use it, and then how that you actually would facilitate it. So you've got the directions for that. All right. So then the last part here really is, so how are we actually going to do this work? So we've already shared the district implementation milestones, which help you to kind of map out your steps. And then as we get into thinking about what this looks like at the school level, you've got that second map, which is the school implementation milestones. One other thing that you have probably done at your coordinator meeting is we did share this idea of a pineapple chart, and it's a way that folks can start sharing across like a school building. And then what we did is we really pulled that out, and we started thinking about more from a regional standpoint and what may be some resources that folks wanted to share. So if from that conversation, maybe you connected with some ideas or heard what other districts and charters were doing, and you want to, certainly explore some of those ideas with folks, we certainly encourage you to reach out and connect with others. Okay, so in terms of those actual steps, remember you've got the maps. So you've got 2 different maps you're looking at, the district and the school implementation milestones. And then an additional tool that you started building at your coordinator meeting this month is the pineapple chart, and a way to start sharing regionally some of the ways that we're actually completing each of those different steps. Okay, so the next part in terms of the how is you're actually do have in Moodle the activity that we're going to be doing. So when you're here on this first page, you can always go back and click here and then scroll down. Another way that you can navigate it is you can look here at this left side and go to your next the next page through here, or easiest thing, since it's we're being sequential right here, is we can actually just click next here at the bottom. So that's what we're going to do right now. All right, so this tells us what is it that we're going to be doing. So before you're leaving, these are your steps. So you're going to take a picture with your district MTSS team. You're going to take some time to summarize what is our compelling why. And then you're going to click on this link here, and it's going to take you to a slide deck. You're going to search for the slide that has your school or district name on it. And then in that slide, you're going to add your team's picture and your team's compelling why. And again, part of, how that we've been doing this is we really want you to be able to see what each other are doing and sharing. So, and you can tell, like most people, I think I did find a picture that was already done, but I'm guessing maybe it was something that that particular team already had. So this is where you're going to come and add your team's picture, and to that picture, you're also going to put summarize what your team's compelling why is. So that is your work in terms of what you're going to be submitting to Moodle. And then you all know that we're really big on the feedback piece. So we want you to, and celebrating. So we want you to take a moment and congratulate your folks in terms of the work that they've already done. And definitely this would also be a time to make sure that you've done these different pieces in terms of submitting your getting to know you in the forum, doing that overview quiz, and then also describing your ideal problem solving team. And then we are really big on feedback, and part of how the course, changes that we've made in terms of kind of chunking some of the materials and that kind of thing. We've done that because of the feedback that we got from cohorts 1 and 2. So we really do value that. So we would ask that you take the time to provide some feedback, and your team members also, we would appreciate that. Another folder that has tons of different resources is this folder. And so essentially all the different resources that were a part of that first section there, Module 1.1, are here. So this could be a place in the future. You don't have to go back and try to find it on the different pages. You can actually just go to this resources folder, and you can access it through here. So you're going to see, here's like 2 of the maps that we were just talking about. They're also here. But we really want to make sure that it's easy for you to find resources. So again, this is a place where kind of all of those resources from 1.1 are dumped into this one folder. So I'm just kind of scrolling through that there. All right. And then I think what we're going to do is we're going to go here and look at our last portion. So I just talked about how that feedback is really important. And so we want to, okay. Sorry, so sound is okay? Just a quick check. Yeah, okay, fantastic. So we definitely value the feedback, and we think it's helped us with the coordinator meetings and trainings that we've done, and so we encourage you to do the same thing. And so I've got a couple of different ways that you could think about getting feedback. It may be something that you already do routinely. So continue with what you're doing if it's working for you. If it's not something that you're doing, we have 2 different ideas in terms of ways to get feedback. So one, with a lot of our assessment work now, we talk about exit tickets. So you could do something similar with that. You could do a plus delta exit ticket. Maybe now you've seen the glow and a grow. So what's one thing that really worked about today that I really liked, and put that on a sticky note. And then what is something that I'd really like to see, if I had an idea about how the meeting could be improved for the next meeting, what is that? And that would be my grow. So that would be a simple way. And you could just have each person take a sticky note and do their glow and their grow on it. And then all you do is collect that, and then summarize that, and then maybe if you do an email follow-up after the meeting summarizing our action steps, you could also say, hey, this is what I heard in terms of our glows and grows, and then what we're going to do for next time. And then what we've been doing with coordinator meetings that you've experienced, and we've also done this with our trainings, is we actually do use a SurveyMonkey link. And one of the things that I think is, sometimes this stuff gets so, we ask so much that it's hard to use it. And so really what we're going to advocate for, and hopefully you hear this, is like, let's just keep it simple. So put down a couple of questions here, like, was this meeting a good use of your time? Yes or no. That information, yes or no, is much easier to really look at and say, oh, okay, most people said it was a good use of their time. Are our next steps clear? Sometimes when we leave a meeting, we're not exactly sure who's doing what next. So maybe that's a question we want to really work on and see. Is it clear what we're doing next? And then it could be more of an open-ended question in terms of, are there any suggestions to help us to improve for our next meeting? Okay, so then after the meeting, so you've closed out the meeting, we've summarized what are our next steps, who's doing what, and everybody's left. And then you're going back and you're reflecting and getting everything together in terms of moving forward. So some things you want to make sure and do is you will want to make sure that you posted your team's 1.1 assignment, which is that picture with your compelling why, and you're going to do that in that slide deck that we looked at. And then also take some time to reflect on what were those glows and grows that you got, or what did that feedback look like. One learning that we had last year, and it's really changed a routine with our coordinator meetings. At the beginning of the year, we noticed we weren't getting a lot of feedback from coordinators. And so what we did is we actually started building in a time at the end of the meeting so that folks could complete the feedback survey. And then what we found is that our response rates went up. Because a lot of times, and you know this, you leave something and you've got 50 more things, and it's a month before you ever go back and revisit it. So if you do actually use some type of Google Doc, or Google survey, or SurveyMonkey, or paper and pencil, it doesn't really matter. Just, you may want to give people time at the end of the meeting before they actually leave to do that. We think that'll probably improve your responses. So again, if I've done that, then what I want to make sure and do after the meeting is make sure that I'm looking at what it is folks said. And then definitely we think that it would be a good idea to go ahead and communicate like any celebrations. That's going to be big. And in the Cotter stuff that talks about prepare for change, that's one of the strategies he talks about. And we use that a lot. You'll continue to see it. So we hope you're good with celebrating, because we're going to continue to do it. And then also, if there are any suggestions that you got that you know you're going to go ahead and move forward with for that next meeting, maybe sharing that as well. So I would like to open up the chat window for any questions. And one question that I see is, where is this going to be posted? So after I actually get the beginning part edited out of the recording, so thank you all, where it's going to be is it's actually going to be up on our MTSS wiki. So I'll just really quick go to that and I'll show you right where it's going to be. And also with that, we're going to be posting, I'll also post the notes that we used, so what you were seeing up on your screen. So I'm on the wiki right now, and what you're going to do, you're going to scroll down and look on the left side here, and where we are right now is Coordinator Virtual Coaching. So you're going to click on that link. And what you're going to see there now is the last ones that we did, which was really all around orientation. So you're in cohort 3 or 4. So you're going to scroll down until you get to cohorts 3 and 4. And right here, we'll have your recording. And then if there were any helpful resources, it'll be here. All right. So great question. Are there any other questions? All right. Well, I'll stay on a couple more moments, and I'm going to probably go ahead and stop the recording. Thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for the work that you're doing, and we're really excited about our next steps.